We are in Maseches Bava Basra, starting Daf Beis Amud Beis, Daf 2b. The Mishnah had told us a bonin es hakosel be'emsa, that when the two partners decide that they are going to build a wall, so they build the wall in the middle. So that seems pretty obvious. The Gemara says, Pshita, obviously they build the wall in the middle. Where else would they build it? Lo, tzricha. No, this is necessary to teach that they build the wall in the middle. Why? Because of the following scenario. In the scenario, de kadim chad viratze lechavre, where one of them was the one who really wanted the wall, and the other one didn't care as much, and really just going along with their friend. They were convinced into putting down for the wall. Ma'u de tema, so you would have said maybe that matzi amarle, that the neighbor could say, ki isratze lechad be'avira, that I did not want to build this whole big structure of a wall. I just want to, we'll put up some sort of sheet, some sort of a thin barrier between us. I don't need a whole big wall, and therefore, um, uh, um, bitashmi shasa lai isratzi lach. I have no um, uh, usage with such a wall, and therefore I feel as though I don't need to pay for it. Kamash Malan, this comes to teach us, no, he can't make such a claim. You have to build the wall straight in the middle, aka they both equally have to pay for the wall. The Hezekiah lav shmei hezek. Now the Gemara wonders, well, is it true that Hezekiah is not considered hezek? And now the Gemara is going to go through a whole number of different proofs related to whether or not Hezekiah is called hezek or not called hezek. Over here, the Gemara just goes through a mnemonic to know, how the order of the proofs, right? To keep in mind, if you want to go back and review the Gemara, easy to know. We're going to bring a proof from Gina, from Kosel, from Kofin, from Cholkin, Chalonos, Derav Nachman. Okay, so this is the mnemonic to remember the Gemara. Tashma. Comment here the following proof. V'chein begina. The Mishnah said that with regard to a gina, with regard to the garden, the orchard, that you put up the wall in order to prevent someone from being able to see in, right? That there is a sense of Hezekiah with regard to the garden. So Gina shiny, so this is the Gemara, no, an orchard is different. Rabbi Abba, as Rabbi Abba taught, Damar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav, as Rabbi Abba said from Rav Huna in the name of Rav, Aser la'adam la'amod besada chavero b'shashihi omedes be'kamuseya, that it is prohibited for a person to stand in another person's field at the time that the crops are growing. And the problem with such a thing is that, as Rashi explains, is because there's going to be an ayin ra, there's going to be a bad eye by you looking into it. Basically, it's breaking the privacy, and but you see that it's because a garden is different, and that there's an element of you want the produce to do well. The problem the Gemara points out is that, well, the Mishnah used the language of v'chein, meaning it sounds like Gina is not the exception, but Gina is in line with Chatzer, that they have the same rule associated with one another. V'chein katani, it says v'chein, which sounds like they are the same, and they're therefore, if the reason for the Gina is Hezekiah, and therefore that's what should apply to the Chatzer also, and that's why you have to put up the wall. Gavil v'gazis. No, the chain is not referencing the gina, but rather it's referencing gvil and gazis and the like, that all the different types of materials apply to the orchard. It's not saying that the chain means that they share all of the same rules, but rather the rules of the types of materials will apply to Gina as well. But that does not necessarily mean that there's a proof now that Hezekiah is actually Hezek or not. Tashma, another proof. Kosel Chatzer Shenafal. If the wall of a Chatzer fell down, Mechayev and Aso Livnos Adal Amos, we obligate him to build the new wall up to 4 amos. This is a brisa from later on in Daf Hey. Nafal shiny, says the Gemara. Well, it's so. What do you see from what's the proof over here? The proof is that Hezekiah is Shmei Hezek. Otherwise, why would we obligate them to build the wall if it fell? Says the Gemara, Nafal shiny. No, well, if it falls, that's different. Why? The Kari law, my Kari law, because one who, because if one brought this case as a proof, so then why wouldn't he have brought it? Meaning the following: why would he bring such a case as a proof? The answer is relatively obvious, that there's a difference, right, between if it fell or if they're deciding to put it up in the first place. Because once they decide to put it up in the first place, then that is why we're telling them now you have to rebuild it, not necessarily because Hezek Re'iyah is actually considered Hezek. Says the Gemara, Seifa Itzr Chale. No, that we need it to be a case of Nafal, in order to teach me the end of this halacha, that medalad amos l'mala lo mechayven oso, that we don't obligate them to go higher than 4 amos. So basically, again, this is not a proof to whether or not Hezek Re'iyah is considered Hezek, because over here they agreed to build the wall, and now it's just a question of how much they have to build once it falls down. And it says and we saw in the Gemara that they only have to build up to 4 amos, so they need to build more than that. Tashma. Another proof: Kofin oso livnos base shar videlis lechatzer. We obligate someone who shares a common chatzer, a common courtyard, we obligate them to build a gate. We obligate them to build a door for the courtyard. Clearly, says the Gemara, Shmamina Hezek Re'iyah Shmei Hezek. Clearly, we see from here that Hezek Re'iyah Shmei Hezek. Otherwise, why would we obligate them to build the fence and build the door and all that? Says the Gemara, Hezek Derabim Shiny. Well, that's from the outside. We want to prevent the public from being able to see in, and there everyone agrees that Hezek Re'iyah is Shmei Hezek when it comes to Hezek Derabim of the public. However, the yachid lo, not necessarily when it comes to an individual. Continues the Gemara, Tashma, we'll bring another proof whether or not Hezek Re'iyah is Shmei Hezek. Ein cholkin es hachatzer, that one does not divide the courtyard unless there's 4 amos equally for both sides. Hayeshba, if there's enough for each neighbor, cholkin, that's when you split it. Okay, once you have dalad amos on both sides, there's enough for it to be considered its own significant property for each person. That's when you split it. My lav be kosel. So aren't you splitting it with a wall? Meaning Hezek Re'iyah Ishmei Hezek. Says the Gemara loy be misfis ba'alma. No, you're just splitting it with some sticks. That's all that the Mishnah means later on. Continues the Gemara to bring another proof whether or not Hezek Re'iyah is Shmei Hezek. Tashma. Learn a proof of the following: Hachalonos bein milamala bein milimata bein mikenegdan. So you have to put windows, above, below, opposite the windows. Dalad amos. You have to build the wall when it, with regard to the windows. Okay, so you have to make sure that it's blocking the windows that you can't see in. Vitani Allah, and what do we see from here? That you have to build above the windows in order so the person can't peek and see in. From below the windows, making sure that the windows are covered below so the person can stand on the wall in order to be able to see in. Opposite the windows in order so that it will not make the person's home dark. So what do you see from here? What do we see from here? That Hezek Re'iyah Shmei Hezek. Otherwise, why are you building this wall over here? Okay, in order, and specifically with the measurements to make sure that people can see into each other's homes, says the Gemara. Well, that does not prove whether or not Hezek Re'ish Shmei Hezek, because we see Hezek Debaya Shiny. The Hezek Re'iyah does apply to seeing into a person's house. By the way, from this Gemara, we already find two exceptions to if you hold Hezek Re'iyah as Lav Shmei Hezek, that there are two exceptions to this. Number one is a bias with regard to a house, a person's private residence. Everyone agrees that there's Hezek Re'iyah. And number two, Hezek Derabim, that of the public being able to see in. Everyone agrees that that is considered Hezek, even if you hold Hezek Re'iyah as Lav Shmei Hezek. And this was pointed out from the Rashba back in the beginning of the Masechta, and that's why the Rashba says Dafka, the case that's used in the Mishnah, is talking about a Chatzer, because that is the case study as to whether or not there is Hezek Re'iyah. Continues the Gemara to bring more proof. Tashma, this is the last proof. Tashma, the Amar of Nachman, as Rav Nachman said, Amar Shmuel, in the name of Shmuel, Gag Hasamach Lachatzer Chavero. If you have a roof that's adjacent to someone else's courtyard, Osin Loi Ma'ake Gavoa Dalid Amos. You have to build a fence that is 4 amos high above the roof. Why? So that you can't see in from the roof to the Chatzer. Says the Gemara, Shiny Hasam. Well, no, there's a difference over there. I.e., by the way, so that means Hezek Re'iyah is Shmei Hezek, Shiny Hasam. Gemara says, no, it's different to Amar La, Bal HaChatzel, Bal HaGag, because there was an agreement made between the owner of the courtyard of the Chatzer and the owner of the rooftop. Alididi Kviya Li Tashmishi, in the Chatzer, that's where I do most of my Tashmishi, it's where I do most of my business. I'm always there. But on the roof, you don't do most of you're not there on a regular basis. Slika v'asis. And I don't know when you're going to be going, on your roof. I don't know when you're going to be there. I'm in my chutzner all the time. You might just pop in one time, right? I'm not going to be expecting it. It's Tana Minach. So I want to be able to hide myself. I want to be able to hide my private activities. And since I'm doing so much in my courtyard, I'm going to be doing private activities there. And you might just pop in one time on your roof. So therefore, they made this joint agreement that they're going to build a fence. Again, not a proof whether or not Hezek Re'iyah is Shmei Hezek or not Shmei Hezek. The Gemara is not 100% clear whether or not Hezek Re'iyah is Shmei Hezek or La Shmei Hezek at this point. The Gemara is going to get to another version soon regarding Hezek Re'iyah Shmei Hezek. We'll get to that, God willing, in the next video. But it is important to point out that the Rambam does paskin that Hezek Re'iyah is Shmei Hezek, as the Rambam writes right over here in Perek Beis Halacha Yedalid in Hilchos Shchenim, Shehezek Re'iyah Hezek Hu. The Hezek Re'iyah is considered Hezek. That is the way that we paskin. Okay, we will stop here and continue next time on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph.